Welcome to the All Booked podcast, where librarians Ashley, Justin, Brittin, and Rosa talk about what they're reading and adding to each other's TBR list.
All right, welcome back to the All Book Club. Welcome. This is for January 3rd, Season 4, Episode 4 of our show here, and Brittin is going to kick us off, as always. Take it away.
Okay, so I am going to do the Murderbot Diaries. This sounds really loud. I've been wanting to do this forever.
You have been saying this.
It's very complicated, so I'm going to try and distill it down.
Cool.
Science fiction. They're novellas, speaking of short books. Okay. Most of them. There is at least one full-length novel. And it's set in an unknown future. Corporations basically rule instead of governments.
So Skynet.
Yeah. And there's a lot of exploration and space travel. When you're going somewhere, you need to take a security unit with you because there's all sorts of crazy flora and fauna on all these new planets that we're going to. These security units are part, quote, biological material that's cloned and part robot construct.
Okay.
And they're essentially highly trained killing machines. But they need to have some intelligence to be any good at their job. So they've given them some intelligence, which basically gets us into the whole, like,
AI thing.
This is a sentient being, you know. Mm-hmm. But we don't want these guys to just go, kill everybody. So they have a governor module that they have to obey their orders or they get
iRobot.
It's iRobot. Okay. So that's the background, right?
Okay.
Our narrator has hacked its governor module.
Of course it did.
It doesn't know what it wants to do, what it wants to be. So it's just pretending that it hasn't hacked its governor module and is just going along. Okay, I've been hired here. All Murderbot, because he calls himself Murderbot, all Murderbot's doing is downloading as much entertainment feed as possible and watching hour after hour of shows and music, mostly Sanctuary Moon, the rise and fall of Sanctuary Moon, which is its favorite show. And then when he has to, or it, I should say, because they're gender neutral, when it has to, it'll go rescue the stupid, fragile humans. So totally misanthropic, very snarky and sarcastic, very social anxiety, like don't look at me. Mm-hmm. It's always fading its shield so that there's no eye contact and just kind of going through life pretending like it's not aware of everything that's happening. But on this most current in the first book, which is called All Systems Red, on this mission, in order to save two humans, Murderbot starts trying to calm a human down and is basically walking this guy through, talking about his kids, doing all sorts of things that a security unit would not be doing. So it kind of gets damaged some and goes, shuts down, and then when it comes to, everybody's looking at it.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, what? Why y'all looking at me?
Right.
So these people are from a planet that has is more of an independent planet. Okay. And so they are, some of them saying this is a highly skilled killing machine that's gone rogue and we need to disable it. Some of them are saying this is a human being and needs to be treated. Meanwhile, Murderbot's like, just leave me alone. Yeah. It's hilarious.
I just want to watch my shows.
Yeah, I just want to. And the more stressed it gets, the more Murderbot wants to rewatch favorite episodes.
Oh
so
God,
I was just like,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Sanctuary Moon is the comfort, So it's pretty awesome. I give myself all these notes here. Each of them is a sort of a mission, if you will. And they do all tied together. You want to read them in order. There's a ton of science in here that I got to admit, I just let it wash right over me. Okay, wormholes. And there's a lot of sabotage and backstabbing and things that I do try to follow because it really makes it a lot more interesting. But the bread and butter of this stuff is the funny commentary of this misanthropic, totally anxiety-filled, don't know who I am, don't know what I am being.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. So they're very
How
quick
many are
reads. The newest one that just came out is the 7th.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
One,
They're short.
They're quick.
well, there's actually another one in there that is the full-length novella that's kind of, I wouldn't say you could read it first, but it's not the same story. It's kind of a side story, a side adventure.
Okay, cool.
These are
kind of a
YA.
deal. They're not YA, but they won, the first one at least, won the Alex Award,
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Hugo, Nebula,
Interesting.
Locus, an award I'd never heard of, all sorts of awards. They're awesome. They really are great.
Seems
And
like
it's
something I would
interesting
pick
because
up.
there's not a ton in the system, but the ones that are there are all going out. And they're all available, I think, through Libby. I listen to them, which makes it even better because Murderbot's voice is literally in your ear reading, talking about, oh, the stupid humans want to go and try and rescue that one, and they're just all going to die. And,
That's great.
yes, so that's Murderbot Diaries. Highly recommend that
They
one.
announced a movie deal for that.
My brother was telling me that. It'll be really interesting because
People are not happy
really,
Really?
because they got Alexander Skarsgård as Murderbot.
I love the Skarsgårds.
I
all
do
of them.
too.
Every last
They're
one of them.
like, why?
That man
It'll
does
be
not deserve to
interesting.
be covered in a helmet.
Well, they do. One of the things Dr. Mensah, who is the human leading this expedition in the first one, is like, you can't keep doing that. Now that we know that you are not some nameless, faceless, you can't keep hiding yourself. Like, the
Right.
people need to see you. You need
Yeah.
to.
Right.
And some of them are arguing back and forth, and they all have feeds, which, from what I can understand, it's in their head. Have you read these?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like in their head, right?
Yeah.
The feeds are in their head. It's basically
That's gonna be
various.
hard to make a movie.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They'll
If they
probably
can do it with
find.
Star Wars, I'm sure they can
Yeah.
pull it off.
But you can tap into different feeds, and you can get
Yeah.
private feeds, and he can hack anything. So he's constantly, and then he's like bribing other bots. There's a pilot bot, and he wants to get a ride on that ship. So he's like, I got 35,000 hours of downloaded media. You want some media?
Wow.
Yeah. It's really cool.
All right. It sounds like a fun
Yes.
book.
I really like them. Have you read the newest one?
Not yet. I'm waiting for my hold.
I've got it. Sorry.
I'm waiting for the audiobook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then my other book is Where You See Yourself. And this is very different. This is realistic fiction. This is Effie, who has cerebral palsy and uses a wheelchair. Effie's a senior in high school, and like all seniors in high school who are looking to go to college, going through the whole process of trying to find the right college. But there's a whole different set of criteria that any college that Effie wants to go to needs to meet. So Effie and her parents have been on this for several years, and all of her friends are just starting with I don't know where to go. And she has a school that's her dream school. What she wants to do is get into, be a journalist, social media possibly, magazines maybe. She wants more representation for people with disabilities in mass media. And she's found the perfect school for it, but she's afraid her mom won't let her go. So she's busy trying to convince her mom that she could handle going far away to school. And at the same time, she also kind of has to figure out whether or not she actually could, because she hasn't been to this school, so she's not really sure if it is truly accessible, whether or not she'll be able to get into a dorm room, So I found it really interesting. It is ashamed to say, I am ashamed to say, hadn't really thought about all those issues because I'm living my abled life and not having to deal with it. But
You're
I
not
think,
the only one.
Yeah.
I think Effie really has a very strong voice and a very, I don't want to say sympathetic voice because I don't feel like I feel sympathy for her, but very empathetic. I've felt a strong connection. And she's got a good support network with some friends and family. And there's a bit of a love interest in there who might actually have that same school as his first choice, you know.
Nice.
An extra bonus, if you listen to the audiobook, which is on Hoopla, it's read by Ridgewood's own Allie Stroker.
Oh, yeah.
Who, if you don't know, we know, but if you don't know, Allie was the first actor in a wheelchair to be on Broadway and win a Tony for an award.
She's amazing. She does everything. She writes, she sings.
She writes, she sings, she narrates.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, another really good one.
She has a good voice too, obviously. Not a Tony, but she narrated her book too.
Yes.
And she has a nice narration voice.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Very
so that's
cool.
me.
Awesome. Thank you, Britt.
Yeah.
My 2 books. So I'm going to start off with, honestly, Kendare Blake. Kendare Blake is my hero. She wrote a lot of things, but her latest one is called The Champion of Fate. And it's the first part of a duology called The Hero Makers. And it's so cool. Action-packed, like, you just hit the ground running. So basically, the story is about these women who are these mythical female warriors called like the Kiersten, and like just imagine like Amazonian women who speak like millions of languages and just like know their worth, and like basically what it is like they're entered into this like world and they're raised to kind of build heroes. Like they're set into the real world, they're assigned to somebody, and they basically lift these heroes up to their full potential. It's like crazy. So basically we have our main character Reed, who is unfortunately, like with everything, a really sad beginning. Like you literally cry like the first 5 minutes of the book because you're just like, this poor girl. Basically, like, spoiler alert, like, she becomes an orphan and basically finds her way into the world of the Kierstens. And now she's, a couple of years have passed. She's ready to become a hero maker. She's ready to meet her assignment. But, of course, stuff happens. We meet the hero, and there's love, there's brothers, there's dueling, there's so I mean I don't want to spoil it, but basically
Hopefully
not together. No. But there's 2 brothers. One is becoming the king, and while the other one is following the footsteps, but one is fated to be a hero, and the other one really is not. And it's interesting because like you meet these women, and they all go their own separate ways. They're all assigned a different hero, and they're all playing the different sides. So like you don't know who to root for because like they all have the potential to have like a really good guy, but like who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, like you don't know. But it's really interesting what she does with the story and just kind of the question around it. But honestly, guys, like the action scenes, the fight scenes, like I'm ready. I'm ready to see this. Like it's in my head. Like she paints like such an amazing like picture. Like I'm talking about like battle scene of like Troy. That's how I imagine this whole thing. Like the Amazonians and like Wonder Woman. Like this is exactly, if that's your cup of tea, definitely pick up Kendare Blake, The Champion of Fate. My second book is a little rough.
You chose like a favorite author?
I did.
And then one that you sometimes have struggles with.
Disclaimer. So Brittin and a few of my fellow librarians are in the midst of reading mock award books. So these are the books that we think have potential to win the prize as the best book of the year, basically, for young adult. So I am furiously getting through all of the books. Some I've so far been great, while others I have a hard time with because I'm not a big fan of the author for some reason. And that brings us to Deb Caletti. I have a love-hate relationship with Deb Caletti. Let me just set this to a point. She's an excellent writer. She is. Girlfriend knows how to develop a plot, create characters, but her characters are the worst. Like, I cannot stand how selfish this teenager is. So,
are they supposed to be the worst?
Yes.
You know, but there are. That may be the point. She may be proving how excellently she writes because it really is getting under your skin.
And this is my point exactly. We have a love-hate relationship because it's just so either it's really well written
your buttons.
that I'm just like my buttons are really pushed. So basically we have Plan A by Deb Caletti. Basically it's a story about a 16-year-old girl named Ivy who finds herself in a predicament. She is pregnant. And in the town where she lives in, which is Paris, Texas, it is illegal to get an abortion. Now, this book, let me just put it out there, in no way one or another pushes people to say that abortion is right or abortion is wrong. It literally gives you both sides. And that I think is what makes this book so unique, is because it doesn't preach one way or the other. It gives you her story. And not just her story, it gives you like all the women that she meets. So basically, let me rewind this. She basically gets approval from her mother to go across country to the West Coast to visit her grandma, where it is legal to get an abortion. So she decides that she's going to do it. Her boyfriend, Lorenzo, who is just like the sweetest guy in the world, you just love him. Everything about him just screams like, this is the guy you marry. This is the guy you end up with. I know you're 16, but like, when you meet somebody, you meet someone, and this is your someone. That's exactly like what it is. But he goes on this trip with her, and they basically along the way meet like family members, friends of the family, and everybody has a story. And like what's so scary about it is he even said that he was doing research about abortion, and 1 in 4 women have abortions. Like that number is scary. Yeah. It's a scary number. There's 4 of us. That's crazy. So again, I think the book is very well done. And it's not just about like her, it's about the stigmatism. Like she literally, like you grow up in Texas. Yeah. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows your business. And the minute that somebody knows something happened, like everybody knows. Yeah. So obviously everybody in town knows that she's not visiting grandma. She's on this road trip. So like she's, dealing with all of that and those stigma. So I think it really brought up a lot of questions and lots of topics that are very, very hot right now, like a hot topic. But again, I think it is definitely for older teens, definitely like goes over like the shame, the stigmatism, like issues with consent and like what that's like. And just everybody just has their own story and it's amazing. Like it's really well done. Much to my disbelief.
So, is it getting your vote?
I think I will vote for this one.
To win the Prince.
I know. There's a lot of good.
There's a lot of good.
There's a lot of good ones on the list. I mean, I'm still voting for Steve. Like The Impossible Escape was still up there in my opinion. And If Tomorrow Doesn't Come as well is pretty up there.
Right.
But again, I think I still have like maybe 2 more to weed out.
You're ahead of me.
But yeah, it's been an exciting mock Prince ride, guys. A lot of depressing books on the list this year. Yeah. But I always feel like that's the way it always is.
It's great holiday reading.
It is. Just perfect in time for your holidays. Who's next?
I'm next.
All right.
So I did 1 book, and even that didn't finish it. But it's all right. Had a busy December. So I'm going to talk about Dead Flip by Sara Farizan. It's literally under 300 pages. Like, there's no excuse for me to not have finished this. But
it's got
One-year-old.
I do have an almost 1-year-old.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Is it a Stranger Things?
Yes.
I was about to say it's got a Stranger Things feel to it.
From what I read, the reviews said that this is a blend of Stranger Things meets Jumanji.
Sold.
Yeah. Exactly. 2 things that I really love. Yeah. So I gave it a shot. So it is very much like Stranger Things. So it takes place in like the late 80s, and it takes place in the 80s, but then it jumps to 1992. So there's like a 5-year gap that it jumps back and forth between. So Maz, Corey, and Sam are best friends, and they're young kids and doing what young kids do. It's the 80s. They're at each other's houses. There's sleepovers. There's lots of like name dropping and brand dropping and stuff like that. So it really puts you in that time period, which is great. It's a lot of fun. So they go to Rob's, which is an arcade, and Rob's a nice guy. He calls it the Three Stooges, and he has this thing I think it's called the Sorcerer is the name of the pinball machine.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, so Sam makes his way over to it, and he's talking to Corey, and something happens to him where like he kind of zones out, and Corey's looking at him like, all right, you good? And then like he comes back too, and he's perfectly fine, like nothing had happened. But she was really concerned about him because he was like unresponsive. So they let it go. They're like, that's a weird game. Let's not play that one again. So then they leave, and then it gets to be Halloween night, and Corey and Maz are Sam is the glue that keeps that friendship together. So Corey is starting to kind of like experiment with some other friends and leaving Maz and Sam out.
Aww.
So it's I think it's very, very realistic to think that a kid is going to start expanding their friend group. So anyway, it's Halloween night, and Corey invites them to her friend's house. And first of all, she shows up not wearing a costume that's on theme with the rest of them, so they're already upset with her. And then she doesn't want to go on their usual route. She wants to take them to some party. So they're upset. So Sam is upset. So they kind of end up arguing, and Maz is kind of in between. Maz also kind of has a little thing for Corey. So he's like, no, let's go to the party. It'll be fine. So Sam's like, what? Like, I'm losing all my friends and my plans in one night. So they all break off, and Sam is going to go walk home, and he sees that Rob's is open. Typically, Rob's closes at 6. So it's after 6, and the lights are on. So he goes in there. On Halloween.
Oh, wow.
It's not creepy or anything.
So Sam goes in there, and he goes up to the Sorcerer pinball game, and that's the last time you hear of Sam. Sam disappears after that. You never hear from him again. So Corey and Maz then deal with the aftermath of missing Sam. They've been interviewed a million times by the police. They don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared. And his family his dad, he was only with his dad. His dad ends up moving to Florida. Like, the whole world kind of just stops because Sam disappears.
Oh my gosh.
So 5 years later, everybody's kind of moved on. Maz and Corey don't really talk at all. They're friendly, not friends. And Maz is walking home, and he sees like a hooded figure outside of his house. And he looks at him, and he's like, who is that? And he thinks it's just something like the mist or something, that he doesn't know what it is. But then this figure turns and talks to him. He realizes it's Sam 5 years later. But Sam is not 5 years older. Sam was stuck in the arcade game for the last 5 years.
Whoa.
So unknowingly to the rest of them, Corey has been spending the last 5 years researching missing people that all happen to be in the same arcade area at the time of their disappearance.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to leave it.
Cool.
Corey should maybe tell somebody so they stop playing with
You'd
that
think.
pinball machine, right?
Right. I mean, but Rob's is out. So after everything happened with Sam, the arcade shut down. So now they have to hunt down this arcade game to see if they can rescue all the other people who might be trapped inside.
Wow.
That is so...
It's very good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool story. It does alternate between... So it can be a little bit confusing because it alternates between times and people. So it's like, okay, who is it? Where are we? But it's very good. It's a very fast read.
What year is it?
What year is it? Yeah, exactly.
Robin Williams. What year is it?
Exactly. But it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. I haven't read anything else from Sara Farizan, but this one's a lot of fun.
Is it in the universe of Stranger Things, or like no?
Nope,
cool.
It's its own little place, but it's very. I mean, you have the zombie boy because he's called the Ghost Boy. Like there's a lot of the disappearance and then coming back and time travel and there's a lot that's very Stranger Things-esque. So if that's your thing, definitely go for it.
Sold.
So that's mine.
You had me at time travel. Big Doctor Who fan.
I know.
So I haven't read a lot because it's final.
So what, like 2? You haven't read a
I'm
lot.
going back to like something I read before that I haven't talked about, and it's Song of Silver Flame Like Night by Amelie and Zhao. So this one is for people who like Star Wars and or C-dramas, which I know has gotten really, really popular lately, along with like K-dramas. So
Love a good K-drama.
right?
So good.
But this one's like a fantasy that's I would say there's also a little bit of Avatar: The Last Airbender in this, because this is set in fantasy land inspired by ancient China. They call it the Last Kingdom before the Atlanteans, who are coded as British people, colonize the Last Kingdom. So we follow two perspectives. One is Lan, a girl who basically witnessed her village get razed and her mother die before, but not before her mother marks her with a symbol on her arm that nobody else can see but her. So her mother dies, and she basically scrapes by either stealing, scavenging, and working as a song girl, like a singer / entertainer at an entertainment house. That it's YA safe though. And one day she gets a really rough customer, and then I think from what I remember, the second protagonist comes in and rescues her from the rough customer, and he reveals that he can see the mark on her arm by asking her, "What is that?" She doesn't know what it means. It's something untranslatable. So and then he like disappears on her because his journey is about seeking revenge on the people who murdered his family. So this girl, Lan, she chases after him, and she asks him, "How can you tell? Like, how do you know you have a mark on I have a mark on my arm?" And he's like, "I can see it plain as day. I don't know what it means though." So he says, "But I do know where we can find out how and what it all means." So he takes her to a secret training school for magicians, and in a land that magic has like disappeared from. This is something totally like that blew her mind, and she basically has to learn that about her heritage and what her mother died for, who her mother really is, who her father really is, and what to do with this new kind of power that's growing in her. And there's dragons.
And there's dragons.
Yes.
I love it. And there's a sequel coming out.
Yeah, that one. But yeah, this one reminds me strongly of Star Wars, like the original trilogy. Very focused on like the chi and the Force, that kind of thing, and that sort of coming of age journey to understanding your own power and what you can do. But yeah. The second one, I know I put Escaping Mr. Rochester, but I haven't finished that yet. So I'm going to talk about Mr. Magic by Kiersten White. That one is an adult, but I think it has a really good like YA appeal because Kiersten White is just like that. And I really loved Hide, her last horror
That was good.
release. So this one's another horror, maybe supernatural, maybe mystery. So the premise is it opens up to introduce you to this children's TV show. It sounds just like any other TV show. It's about these 6 kids who basically every episode learn like a new lesson about, helping, sharing, dealing with emotions, that kind of thing, through rhymes and songs. And there are always 6 kids. And these 6 kids, when they need help during their everyday lives, they summon somebody called Mr. Magic. Mr. Magic.
I think I like this.
Mr. Magic has like a cape and a top hat, but nobody remembers what he actually looks like. Nobody remembers if he even has a face.
Oh God, yeah.
Magic.
Yeah, exactly. And this show has run from like the 30s all the way to the 90s when it mysteriously just stops, disappears off the air, and anything that talks about it, especially online, gets taken down like right away.
It's like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I like it.
And people are like going nuts, like trying to figure out, I remember this show when I was young. I remember the songs. I remember like the cast members.
Causing the Mandela effect.
Literally.
Wow.
But there's nothing online except for like a Wikipedia article that's very vague. Nobody remembers what Mr. Magic looks like. And there are no like listings, like TV listings, like saying which channel it came on, what time it was on.
I'm
like,
officially freaked out.
yeah. So this show is basically just gaslighting the whole world.
Yeah.
And like, so this story actually follows the cast members of the last batch of cast members before it ended. They were like around 8 years old at the time it stopped. And we follow the perspective of Valerie, who has been living for the last 20 years on her father's ranch in Idaho. Very isolated. She's not even allowed to watch TV. She's not allowed to have a phone. No internet access at all. She just works on the ranch, and every summer she basically like opens the ranch for like sort of a camp for kids. And the start of the story is when her father dies. And during her father's funeral, 3 men show up and they tell her, hey, do you remember us? And the thing, she doesn't remember anything from before she was 8 years old. And they tell her, we were your fellow castmates. We are going to this reunion for like the 20th anniversary of the show ending. And we're going to be like doing a podcast and interviews about it. And also, the mom that you thought that you killed when you were 8 is actually alive. So,
Oh, boy.
yeah.
All right.
So she's like, wait, what? Okay, I have to go meet my mom.
Right.
So they go on a road trip. They end up arriving too late. So she's like, okay, I probably shouldn't like bother my mom now. So they have to stay in this really, really creepy house that is in the middle of a desert with nothing else for miles all around, with the other cast members.
Nope.
And,
Book sounds insane.
Nope.
and she has to find out why her memories are lost, what she actually did. She feels like she did something that ended the show catastrophically and possibly hurt her mom. And she has to find out whether she was actually lured into this reunion.
Oh, God. Yeah, definitely lured.
Yeah.
Like, definitely.
Yeah, so I'll end it there. But
All right.
this is it's really absorbing. Like, I think Kiersten White is just really good at like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hyde was awesome.
Yeah.
Hyde was the one at the amusement park, right?
Yeah.
The end of the amusement park. That was really good.
Yeah.
I talked about that here.
Yeah, you did. That was a good
Good
one.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that about sums it up. Hopefully, you guys.
Don't want to read that one.
This is such a varied
Yes.
list we got going
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
friends. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our episode today and pick up maybe one of the books we suggested. And we wish you all a happy New Year, happy holidays, and all of that fun stuff. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Happy holidays.
The All Booked podcast is written, edited, produced, and hosted by Justin, Ashley, Brittin, and Rosa. All Booked is produced out of the Ridgewood Public Library. Please consider subscribing and sharing with friends, and follow us on Facebook. You can find links to the books we talked about today in the description. Thanks for listening, and keep reading.